You know, in the world of cybersecurity, there's this invisible war going on every single second of every day. And the weapons in this war, they're evolving at a mind-bending speed. So today, we're going to dive into how artificial intelligence is pretty much rewriting the entire rulebook for this digital arms race, totally transforming how we defend ourselves from cyber attackers.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by setting the stage with this whole digital arms race concept. Then we're going to jump into three key battlegrounds: hunting down malware that you can't even see, guarding our digital front doors, and, get this, exposing threats that are already inside. And to wrap it all up, we'll take a peek into the future of this high-tech conflict. Okay, let's get right into it.
For years, you could think of cybersecurity like defending a castle, right? You build your walls high, you knew who your enemies were, and you just defended the perimeter. But these days, the threat landscape has absolutely exploded. Those old castle walls are getting, well, they're getting torn down by attacks that are more sophisticated than anything we've ever seen before. Which leads us to a really critical question. With brand new threats popping up daily, threats that can literally change their shape to avoid getting caught, are our old methods even close to being enough? Well, the short answer is no, not even close. And that is the exact problem that AI is stepping in to solve. This right here perfectly breaks down the huge shift in strategy. On one side, you've got the old way, signature-based detection. Just think of it like a security guard holding a photo album of known criminals. If a new criminal shows up, or if an old one is wearing a disguise, that guard is completely useless. But AI? AI is like a brilliant detective. It doesn't need a photo. It watches behavior. It learns what's normal for that specific environment, and it flags anything at all that seems out of place, even if it's a threat no one has ever seen before. All right, let's zoom in on our first battlefield, malware. This is one of the most common ways attackers get in, and it's an area where AI is making an absolutely massive difference, catching nasty software that your traditional antivirus would just wave right on through. So, what's the secret sauce in these AI-powered systems? Well, it's that they aren't just checking off a list. They're using machine learning to figure out a file's intent. It's not asking, hey, have I seen this exact file before? No. It's asking, is this file acting like it's up to no good? That simple shift in perspective is a total game changer. And how does it even learn to do this? It's basically a three-step process. First, developers gather a ginormous library of files, some good, some bad. Then they train an AI model on that data, essentially teaching it to recognize all the subtle little habits and characteristics of malware. And finally, once it's trained, that AI model is deployed out into the wild where it can analyze new files instantly. So here's what that actually looks like. Imagine a brand new threat, a zero-day attack, lands in your inbox from a phishing email. Your old-school antivirus has no signature for it, so it says, looks good to me, and lets it right in. But the AI system? It sees that file trying to mess with core system files, it immediately recognizes that behavior as hostile, flags it, and shuts it down, preventing a disaster before you even knew you were in danger. So we've covered files, but let's move on to the next battleground, the network itself. Because if an attacker gets past your first line of defense, they're going to try to move around inside your network. And this is where AI acts like a super vigilant guardian, constantly watching the gates.
Now, the concept here is pretty similar, but we're scaling it way up. The AI isn't just looking at a single file anymore, it's watching all the traffic flowing across an entire network. It takes time to learn what's called the unique rhythm of a company. You know, who talks to whom, what data goes where, when people usually log on. Once it has that baseline of what normal looks like, it can spot any weird deviation in a heartbeat. This quote gives a perfect example. Say an attacker steals someone's password and logs in. To a traditional system, that just looks like a normal user. But the AI sees something different. It sees this user suddenly trying to access servers they've never touched before, and they're doing it at 3 in the morning. It flags that completely abnormal activity, which triggers an alert and lets the security team jump in and stop the attacker before they can do any real damage. All right, let's talk about one of the absolute toughest nuts to crack in all of cybersecurity, the insider threat. This could be a malicious employee out for revenge, or just an innocent person whose computer has been taken over. Because they already have legitimate access, spotting them is notoriously difficult. And this is exactly where something called user behavior analytics, or UBA, comes into play. You can think of it as an AI detective, building a super detailed profile on every single person in the organization. It learns your unique digital fingerprint, the files you use, the hours you work, the servers you connect to, and it's always watching for anything that doesn't quite match up with your personal, normal baseline. Okay, check out this classic scenario. A disgruntled employee decides they're going to steal some company secrets. Now, on their own, each one of these actions might not set off any alarms, but the UBA system connects the dots. First, it spots unusual data access. They're grabbing files that have nothing to do with their job. Then, it notes a time anomaly. This is all happening late at night. And finally, it detects a huge amount of data being moved to a USB drive. The AI sees this combination of suspicious behavior, flags it, and alerts the security team, stopping a massive data breach in its tracks. So we've seen how AI is being used right now. But this arms race, it's constantly escalating, constantly speeding up. So let's look ahead. Where is this all going? And what's the next generation of AI-powered cyber defense even going to look like?
AI and security has come a long, long way. It all started with simple rule-based systems. Basically, if this, then that. Right now, we are smack in the middle of the machine learning era, which is what we've been talking about. The real cutting-edge stuff is deep learning, which uses these complex neural networks to find patterns so subtle a human might never see them. But the future? Wow, the future is about predictive AI. We're talking about systems that don't just react to threats, they actually anticipate them before they even happen.
And looking forward, there are three huge trends you've got to keep an eye on. First is explainable AI, which is all about helping humans understand why an AI made a certain decision. Second is autonomous response. This is AI that not only finds a threat, but can immediately take action, like quarantining a machine all by itself. And finally, the next stage of the arms race, adversarial AI, where the attackers start using their own AI to try and trick our defenses.
Now, hearing about all of this powerful automation, you might be wondering, so are we programming security analysts right out of a job? Well, the consensus from experts is a very clear, definitive no.
The future is really about a partnership. AI is absolutely brilliant at doing the heavy lifting, sifting through billions of pieces of data in a blink of an eye, something no human team could ever do. This frees up the human experts to do what they do best, strategic thinking, complex investigations, and making those crucial final calls. It's all about AI augmenting human intelligence, not replacing it.
And that brings us to our final thought. We're building these incredibly smart AI guardians to protect our digital lives. But let's be honest, this technology is a double-edged sword. So the question that we're all left with is, as our defenses get smarter, what happens when the attackers turn AI into their ultimate weapon? That right there is the next great challenge in this never-ending digital arms race,